Hello everyone, welcome to Bio Lessons. In today's class, we will be discussing about chemical coordination and integration. Students often get confused in this chapter because there are a lot of hormone names as well as function to remember. In this session, we will make sure that you understand the topic in a logical way, which will help you to remember the hormone names as well as their functions in a very easy way. So let's see what's inside. We will start the topic by understanding why chemical coordination is important. In our body, there are a lot of physiological activities that take place and they need to be regulated. One of the regulation mechanism is neural or nervous coordination, which is fast, short-lived and point-to-point. Example of it, if you happen to touch a hot iron plate, what will happen? You immediately try to pull yourself away from that hot plate, right? So this reaction or response is very fast. This is an example of neural coordination. Consider another scenario. You took breakfast and it is digested. It leads to an increase in blood sugar level. Now the body has to regulate that sugar level back to normal. So what does body do? It synthesizes insulin from the pancreas, and gradually, slowly, that insulin drops the high sugar level to normal level. So that mechanism of regulation, which is slow, long lasting, widespread, and is with the help of special chemicals called hormones, is called as chemical coordination. Is that clear? Now, chemical coordination is specifically also important because nerve fibers do not innervate all the cells of our body. So, in such situations where we have to regulate the cells that are not innervated by the nerve fibers, we need another type of coordination, and here chemical coordination plays a very important role. Clear? Hormones are basically non-nutrient chemicals and they are produced in very small or trace amounts in the body. They act as intercellular messengers and help in controlling the body functions. The special glands through which these hormones are synthesized or secreted, they are known as endocrine glands, and they lack ducts. That's why they are also called as ductless glands. Is that clear? Our human endocrine system thus constitutes the endocrine glands plus the hormones synthesized by them. Now this is the image that shows the different endocrine glands located or distributed in our body. Apart from the endocrine glands, certain other organs are also able to produce hormones. Example are GI tract, liver, kidney and heart. Now let's learn about specific hormones with their functions. The first endocrine gland is hypothalamus. It is located in the basal part of forebrain, also known as the diencephalon. The hormones are secreted by special cells called as the neurosecretory cells or nuclei. Basically, they are hypothalamic neurons. Okay, and what is the function of the hormones? They regulate the synthesis as well as secretion of pituitary hormones. So hypothalamic hormones are divided into two categories. They can either stimulate the secretion of pituitary hormone called as the releasing hormone, or they can suppress the pituitary hormones. Such type of hypothalamic hormones are known as the inhibiting hormone. Example of releasing hormone is gonadotropin releasing hormone. What does this do? It helps in stimulating the release of gonadotropins from the pituitary. Example of inhibiting hormone is somatostatin. What does it do? It inhibits the release of the growth hormone. Okay. Next thing is, how do these hormones from hypothalamus reach the pituitary? Look, pituitary has two parts, anterior and posterior. Anterior to anterior pituitary, hypothalamic hormones reach by portal circulatory system. And for posterior pituitary, it is directly connected to the hypothalamus. So the hormones of the posterior pituitary are under direct neural control. Okay, I hope it's clear now. Second endocrine gland is pituitary gland. It is also called as the master endocrine gland. It is located in the bony cavity called as the sella turcica. Now, this pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus by a stalk-like structure, and we call this infundibulum. As I already told, and the pituitary gland is divided into two parts. Anterior part is known as adenohypophysis and posterior part is called as neurohypophysis. Okay, the hormones from the hypothalamus, they reach the anterior pituitary through the portal system, and the posterior pituitary is under the direct neuronal control of the hypothalamus. Okay, so the hormones reach by the nerve endings. Okay, these are the hormones that are secreted by the pituitary gland. Now, pituitary gland has two parts, anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary can be further divided into pars distalis, which secretes 6 hormones, and pars intermedia, which secretes 1 hormone. To remember the hormones secreted by the pars distalis, just remember this simple mnemonic, flat pig. Now, F stands for FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone. Now, you have follicle in the word FSH. So, it leads to the growth of the ovarian follicles in females. Also, it causes the secretion of the main female hormone, that is estrogen. In case of males, FSH leads to the formation of the sperms or spermatogenesis. Clear? L stands for LH, which is luteinizing hormone. Now, LH causes the release of the egg from the mature ovarian follicles. Also, it leads to the development as well as growth of the corpus luteum. Further, it also leads to the secretion of progesterone hormone from corpus luteum, which is helpful in maintaining pregnancy. For males, LH leads to the formation of the male sex hormone testosterone. Okay, so you must remember FSH leads to the formation of the main female sex hormone estrogen, while LH leads to the formation of the main male sex hormone, that is testosterone. Progesterone is also released or secreted due to the action of LH on corpus luteum. Clear? Easy to remember? Now, A stands for ACTH. ACTH is adrenocorticotropic hormone and it stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete glucocorticoids. Okay? Now, T stands for TSH. TSH is nothing but thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates the thyroid to secrete T3 and T4. Okay? P stands for prolactin. What does prolactin do? Now, prolactin stimulates the production of the milk from the mammary glands after the childbirth. Okay? G stands for growth hormone, which is also called as somatotropin. It stimulates the body growth by enhancing protein synthesis. Okay? Next, come to pars intermedia. Pars intermedia causes the secretion of the main hormone, that is MSH or melanocyte stimulating hormone. Now we know melanin is responsible for skin pigmentation. So the main action of MSH is regulation of the skin pigmentation. Okay. Next, posterior pituitary is also called as pars nervosa. It is important to remember that it does not synthesize any pituitary hormone, but it stores and releases the hormones. Okay, and where are the hormones made? The hormones are made in the hypothalamus. Okay, they are transferred by the nerve endings and they are just stored and released by the posterior pituitary. The main hormones that are released are ADH or antidiuretic hormone, which is also called as vasopressin. Now, what does ADH do? ADH, it increases the water reabsorption by the kidneys under the dehydration condition and reduces the urine output. Another hormone which is secreted by posterior pituitary is oxytocin. What does it do? Oxytocin is very important for the childbirth. It causes uterine contraction leading to the delivery of the baby. Also, it causes milk ejection during the lactation process. I hope the pituitary hormones are now very clear to you. Let's now discuss the disorders that are caused by the malformation of the pituitary hormone. The first one is gigantism. If excess of growth hormone is present in the childhood, it causes abnormal growth, which is also called as gigantism. Now, if the same GH is present in less amount or is deficient in the body, it causes a stunted growth, also known as dwarfism. Okay? If pituitary hormone GH is present in excess during adulthood, not childhood, okay, present in adulthood, then it causes to disfigurement of the face severely, and it is called as acromegaly. It is very important. Acromegaly is the condition where severe disfigurement of the face is caused due to excessive GH production in adults. Okay. Another hormone, ADH, if it is deficient in people, then it causes a condition which is also known as diabetes insipidus. Here, if ADH is deficient, then what will happen? The kidney will not have the ability to conserve water, and this will lead to water loss as well as dehydration. So, this condition is known as diabetes insipidus. Clear? Next endocrine gland is very interesting, pineal gland. It is also called as the biological clock of the body, situated in the dorsal side of the forebrain. It secretes an important hormone melatonin that is responsible for maintaining the 24-hour or the diurnal rhythm, sleep-wake cycle. That is why it is also called as the biological clock. Okay. It maintains the body temperature rhythm. Also, it has got some other functions like in metabolism, maintaining pigmentation, maintaining the menstrual cycle, and the defense capability. Okay. Next, we have thyroid gland, which is a butterfly-shaped gland present as two lobes located on the either side of the trachea. So, this is your trachea. Thyroid gland is present as two lobes located on either side of it, and they are connected by a thin flap of connective tissue called as isthmus. Very important. Now, this thyroid gland is composed of follicles and stromal tissue, and these follicles are composed of follicular cells which enclose a cavity, and inside that cavity two hormones are synthesized, T4 and T3. What is T4? T4 is tetraiodothyronine, also called as thyroxine, and T3 is triiodothyronine. Now, for the smooth functioning of the thyroid gland, iodine is very essential. It maintains a normal rate of hormone production in thyroid. Okay. Let's now discuss the physiological role of thyroid hormone. Most important role is regulation of the basal metabolic rate. How? It controls the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. That is how it regulates the BMR of the body. Okay. Additionally, it supports the process of RBC formation and maintains the water and electrolyte balance of the body. Also, it secretes a protein hormone called as the thyrocalcitonin. This is very important in regulating the blood calcium levels. us now see what will happen if the thyroid gland malfunctions. We can have three conditions here. We know that iodine is required for the normal synthesis of the thyroid hormone. What if this iodine is deficient in the body? Then obviously the thyroid hormones will be produced in lesser amount and hypothyroidism condition will be caused, and this will lead to the enlargement of the thyroid gland, and that is commonly known as goiter. Okay, another condition can be when there is iodine in the body but the thyroid hormones are still produced in lesser amount. That condition is known as hypothyroidism. Now, if this hypothyroidism condition is present during the pregnancy, then it will lead to the defective development and maturation of the growing baby, leading to stunted growth. This condition is called as cretinism. The baby will be born with mental retarded condition, low IQ, abnormal skin, and may be deaf or mute. Okay. Now, if the condition of hypothyroidism is present in adult women, it leads to the irregular menstrual cycle. Is that clear? So, hypothyroidism causes goiter if there is like iodine deficient in the diet. Also, during the pregnancy, hypothyroidism causes cretinism and mentally retarded baby. In adult women, it causes irregular menstrual cycle. Clear? Now next, let's see what if this thyroid hormone is present in excess. When can we have this condition? When there are nodules present in the thyroid gland. Also, it may be present if there is cancer of the thyroid gland. What will happen? The rate of synthesis and the secretion of thyroid hormones will be abnormally high. So, the BMR will be high and the metabolism rate will be very high. This will cause heavy weight loss in the person. Also, in such people, there is exophthalmic goiter which can be seen. Now, we just saw that goiter is the enlargement of the thyroid gland. What is exophthalmic goiter? Now, in exophthalmic goiter, the thyroid gland is enlarged. There is neck swelling also present just like that of goiter. But only difference is that in exophthalmic goiter, the eyeballs are protruded, while in simple goiter, there is no eyeball protrusion. Okay. So, this condition is also called as Graves' disease. Okay. So, what are the symptoms of Graves' disease? Exophthalmic goiter, enlargement of the thyroid gland, protrusion of the eyeballs, increased BMR, and rapid weight loss. Clear? In the backside of the thyroid gland, per lobe, we have two parathyroid glands that are present. So, making it a total of 4 parathyroid glands. Now, these parathyroid glands, they secrete the hormone which is peptide in nature and called parathyroid hormone. Okay. So, this PTH, what does it do? It increases the calcium 2+ levels in the blood. Because it increases the calcium level, it is also called as a hypercalcemic hormone. Clear? Now, the secretion of the PTH, how is it regulated? It depends upon the concentration of calcium 2+ that is present in the blood. Okay. Once it decreases, PTH hormone is synthesized. Okay. Let's now see how PTH increases the blood calcium level. It does it in 3 ways. Okay. The first one is dissolution or demineralization of the bone. Basically what happens, calcium 2+ in the bone is dissolved and that increases the concentration of calcium in the blood. What else does it do? It stimulates the reabsorption of the calcium in the renal tubules. Thirdly, it also increases the calcium 2+ absorption from the digested food. So, in these 3 ways, it increases the concentration of calcium present in the blood. So we have two hormones here, okay? PTH increases the blood calcium 2 plus or is a hypercalcemic hormone, and calcitonin, which is produced by the thyroid, is a hypocalcemic hormone or it decreases the blood calcium 2 plus level. So together the combined action of PTH and calcitonin maintains the calcium 2 plus level inside our body. Is that clear? Next endocrine gland is thymus, which is a lobular structure located between the lungs. Okay, it secretes the peptide hormones called as thymosins, and they play a very important role in the immunity of our body. Okay, directly they cause the differentiation of T lymphocytes responsible for the cell mediated immunity. Also, they promote the production of the antibodies responsible for humoral immunity. Okay, this typical endocrine gland is found to be degenerated in the old individuals, and that is why old people often have a weak immune system. Isn't that interesting? Next, we have a very important endocrine gland that plays an important role during the stress condition. It is the adrenal gland. We have a pair of adrenal gland and each one is present above our kidney. This is the kidney and this is the adrenal gland which is placed right above it. Okay. Now, this adrenal gland has further two parts. The tissue lying outside is called as the adrenal cortex, and the centrally located tissue is called as the adrenal medulla. Now, the adrenal cortex further has three layers. Outside layer is called as the zona glomerulosa, middle zona fasciculata, and the innermost layer is called as the zona reticularis. The adrenal cortex secrete the hormones which are called as corticoids, and we have three important class of corticoids that are secreted: glucocorticoid, mineralocorticoid, and gonadocorticoid. Okay, now come to the centrally located tissue, otherwise called as the adrenal medulla. They secrete important hormones that are catecholamines and are also called as the emergency hormones or fight or flight hormones. Why? Because these hormones are secreted during emergency condition. Now, the two types of hormones that are synthesized by the adrenal medulla are epinephrine or adrenaline and norepinephrine or noradrenaline. Are you clear about it? Let's now discuss adrenal hormones in detail. Okay, adrenal cortex, as we know, it synthesizes three hormones. The first one is mineralocorticoid. As the name suggests, mineralocorticoids regulate the minerals in our body, or it regulates the electrolyte balance. Specifically, it increases reabsorption of the sodium plus and water and causes excretion of K plus and the phosphate ions. So where exactly does it do it? It does it in the DCT and the collecting duct. Okay, so mineralocorticoids help in maintaining blood pressure as well as the blood volume of the body. The main example of mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. Okay, the second hormone is glucocorticoid. Examples of it are cortisol, cortisone, and corticosterol. Okay, now these glucocorticoids are synthesized in when the body is in prolonged stress condition. So whenever we are stressed about something for a very long time, for example, you are stressed about a particular exam for a very long time, or a person is not able to perform nicely in the office and he is stressed about it for a long time. So in such condition, glucocorticoid hormones are synthesized. Okay. So what's its physiological role? It stimulates gluconeogenesis, like synthesis of glucose in and then lipolysis, that is lysis of the lipids, lysis of the proteins or proteolysis. So these help in metabolism of carbohydrate, protein and fat. Additionally, they maintain the cardiovascular system, suppress the immune response and are anti-inflammatory. Now look, whenever the body is in stress condition, it always needs more energy. That's why gluconeogenesis, lipolysis and proteolysis take place. Okay. Also, it suppresses immune response. What is the meaning of it? It means that suppose a virus has attacked our body, the body has cleared the virus, it no longer needs the immunity, so that suppression of the immune response, it is carried out by the glucocorticoid. Clear? Now, come to the third hormone, that is gonadocorticoid. Example is androgen. As the name suggests, gonadocorticoids stimulate the gonads. So what do? They play a role in growth of axillary hair, that is hair along the axis of the body, pubic hair and also libido. So these are the function of the hormones secreted by the adrenal cortex. Now let's come to the hormones secreted by the adrenal medulla. So here both adrenaline, which is epinephrine, and noradrenaline, which is norepinephrine, both of these hormones are responsible for fighting the body when it is in the emergency condition or fight or flight mode. Okay, what is the example of it? Suppose you you are crossing the road, suddenly a car is coming in front of you. Are you getting very scared or not? Does your heartbeat raises that time? Okay, you don't know what to do. So that in the under that stress condition, both adrenaline hormone and noradrenaline hormone are synthesized. Look, glucocorticoids are also synthesized in stress condition, but here the stress has been present in the body for a very prolonged time, and these glucocorticoids last for several minutes. Okay, its actions stays for a longer time. But in case of adrenaline and noradrenaline, the action stays for very less time, like in seconds. Okay, so what do? Epinephrine or adrenaline, they rapidly prepare the body for fight or flight mode. They increase the alertness of the body, dilate our pupils, cause piloerection. Piloerection is the erection of the body hair. Okay, cause sweating, heart rate, and also increase the strength of the heart contraction. Additionally, they increase the respiratory rate and stimulate breakdown of glycogen to glucose. Now, why this takes place? Because again, anytime the body feels it is in stress condition, it needs to get more energy. Okay, so glycogenolysis takes place and glucose is formed. Okay, so this adrenaline, it increases the blood glucose level. Noradrenaline acts along with adrenaline in the fight or flight response by preparing the body to face a stressful situation. The actions of noradrenaline and adrenaline are basically similar. Okay, that is why both of them are called as the emergency hormone. I hope that is clear for you people. Hyposecretion of the adrenal cortex hormones causes an important disease, which is Addison's disease. Okay, this is characterized by extreme weakness and fatigue. Also, sexual characteristics as well as libido is affected. Okay. Let's now come to pancreas. Pancreas is an example of the composite gland. That means it has both exocrine activity and endocrine activity. Okay. Now, endocrine part of the pancreas, it consists of special kind of cells. And what do we call these special cells? We call these special cells as islets of Langerhans. Now, there are about 1 to 2 million cells of islets of Langerhans, and it represents about 1 to 2% of the pancreatic tissue. Okay. Now, inside these islets of Langerhans, there are two main types of cells that are present. One type is A cell or alpha cell, which secretes the glucagon hormone. Second type is the B cell or beta cell, which secretes the insulin hormone. Now, both glucagon and insulin, they are peptide hormone, but the actions of both are opposite to each other or antagonistic to each other. Okay. While glucagon is a hyperglycemic hormone, insulin is a hypoglycemic hormone. What is the meaning of it? Look, hyper means more, glycemic means sugar. So glucagon increases the sugar concentration in the blood, while insulin, it decreases the sugar concentration in the blood. Okay. Now, how do glucagon and insulin do this? Look, glucagon, it causes glycogenolysis in the liver cells. That means it causes the lysis of the glycogen and converts it to glucose. Also, it causes gluconeogenesis. That means it causes the synthesis of the glucose. So, both glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis together increases the sugar concentration in the blood, thereby causing a hyperglycemic condition. Is that clear? What does insulin do? Look, whenever there is increased blood sugar in insulin, it causes the rapid movement of that glucose from the blood into the either liver cells or fat cells, that is adipocyte. So what happens there? Look, inside the hepatocytes, the glucose is converted into glycogen. Look, it is just the opposite of that which happens in case of glucagon action. See, glucagon causes the lysis of glycogen in the liver cells, but insulin in turn converts the glucose to glycogen inside the liver cells. So insulin hormone causes glycogenesis. Okay. Also, it causes the formation of the fat in the adipocytes. This in turn reduces the sugar concentration of the blood, thereby causing hypoglycemic condition. Is that clear? Now, if there is a malfunction in the insulin formation, what will happen? If there is a malfunction in insulin, then automatically the sugar concentration will be increased in the blood. So that increased glucose will also come out through the urine and may be converted to the ketone bodies. Such a condition in which there is more glucose concentration than the normal inside the blood, it is called as diabetes mellitus, and it can be treated through the application of the insulin hormone. It is also called as the insulin therapy. I hope it's clear now. In case of the humans, the primary sex organ, that is testes in case of the males and ovaries in case of the females, they can produce the male and female sex hormones respectively. Now, humans, they have a pair of testes and they are present in the scrotal sac, right, which is present outside the abdomen. Now, testis functions as a primary sex organ. Also, it functions as the endocrine gland. Testis is composed of seminiferous tubule and stromal or interstitial cells, but the endocrine portion, it is composed of Leydig cells or interstitial cells. Okay, so they are responsible for producing the male sex hormones, that is androgens, mainly testosterone. So where is testosterone produced? Testosterone is produced by the Leydig cells or the interstitial cells. Very important. Okay. Now, what is the functions of these androgens? These androgens, they regulate the development of the male sex like characteristics. For example, the male accessory sex organs, epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, urethra, all of these development are possible because of the action of androgens. Okay. Additionally, secondary sexual characteristics, for example, growth of facial hair, axillary hair, muscular growth, aggressiveness of the males, low pitch voice, these are also possible because of the action of androgens. The testosterone, it also stimulates the process of spermatogenesis or formation of sperms, and acts on the central nervous system to influence the male sexual behavior, otherwise called as libido. Okay. Now, these hormones produce the anabolic effects on protein and carbohydrate metabolism. Okay. I hope you are clear about the function of testes. Let's now look into the function of ovaries. Just like the testes in male, ovaries act as a primary sex organ and also as an endocrine gland. Now, these ovary, they produce important female hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. Ovary is composed of special cells called as ovarian follicles and stromal tissue. Estrogen is specifically secreted by growing ovarian follicle, and progesterone, once the mature ovarian follicle has released the egg or ovulation has been completed, a structure called as corpus luteum is produced. This corpus luteum is mainly responsible for secreting the progesterone hormone. Is that clear? So estrogen is synthesized by ovarian follicle. Progesterone is synthesized by growing corpus luteum. Okay. Now, what is the function of estrogen? Is like testosterone, it helps in development of the male sexual characteristics, primary as well as secondary. Estrogen is also responsible for development of primary and secondary female sexual characteristics. Okay. For example, all the primary female sex organs as well as development of ovarian follicles, appearance of secondary sex characteristics of females such as high pitch voice, development of mammary gland. Okay, all of these are due to the action of estrogen hormone. Is that clear? Estrogens also regulate the female sexual behavior. Okay. And what does progesterone do? Progesterone acts as a support for the development of the fetus or pregnancy. Progesterone also acts on the mammary glands and stimulates the formation of alveoli. These are sac-like structures that can store milk and help in milk secretion. Okay. So progesterone helps in pregnancy and milk storage and secretion, while estrogen helps in development of the primary female sexual organs as well as secondary sexual characteristics and the female sexual behavior. I hope this part should be clear now. Apart from our primary endocrine glands, some other organs inside our body are also able to secrete the hormones. Okay, some of the major hormones are atrial natriuretic factor, otherwise called as ANF. It is secreted by the arterial walls of our heart. When is it secreted? Whenever the BP rises or blood flows in high pressure, that time ANF is secreted and it causes the decrease in the blood pressure. Okay. Next is erythropoietin hormone. Erythropoietin hormone is secreted by special cells inside the kidney, which are known as juxtaglomerular cells. And what is the function of it? They stimulate the formation of RBC or occurs erythropoiesis. Clear? Next, let's see some of the hormones that are present in the GI tract. In the GI tract, we have gastrin, which acts on the gastric glands and stimulates the secretion of HCl and pepsinogen, okay, which is inactive pepsin. Second is GIP. GIP is nothing but gastric inhibitory peptide. Whenever the digestion is complete, we don't need any more the gastric juices. GIP that time comes into the picture and it inhibits the gastric secretion as well as the motility of the stomach. Clear? Next is secretin hormone. Secretin hormone acts on the exocrine pancreas. And what does it do? It stimulates the secretion of the water and bicarbonate ions. Okay. Another is cholecystokinin, which again acts on pancreas. Look, gastrin and GIP for the stomach and secretin and cholecystokinin both act on the pancreas. Easy to remember now. What does this cholecystokinin do? Cholecystokinin, it stimulates the secretion of the pancreatic enzymes and gallbladder to secrete the bile juice. Clear? apart from the hormones that are produced in the GI tract, we also have the hormones which are produced in the normal tissues, which are known as growth factor. These hormones are essential for the normal growth, repair and regeneration of the tissues. So these are the other hormones that are secreted by the various body parts other than the normal endocrine glands. Clear? So whatever hormones we just now read, they can be of different chemical natures. Okay. Some of them can be steroids. Example, the cortisol or the stress hormone. Also the male and the female sex hormones. These are steroidal in nature. And some of the hormones can be peptide, polypeptide or proteinaceous in nature. Example, insulin, glucagon, pituitary hormone, hypothalamic hormones. These are all the peptide hormones. And some of the hormones can be iodothyronine. Example of it is thyroid hormone. And some can also be the derivatives of amino acid. Example, epinephrine. Okay. So the hormones can have different chemical nature. Let us now understand how hormones are able to perform specific physiological action. Okay, each of the hormone, they have to act on a target tissue. Okay, now what happens in the target tissues, there are specific proteins which are called as the hormone receptors. These hormones, they go and bind to these receptors that are present on the surface of the target tissue, and this leads to the formation of hormone receptor complex. Okay, now each receptor is very specific to the hormone, and this formation of the hormone receptor complex, it leads to the certain biochemical changes in the target tissue and causes the physiological response. Is that clear? Now the hormone receptors which I told that are present in the target tissue, these can be present on the cell membrane surface or they can present inside the target cell. If the receptors, they are present on the membrane surface, they are known as membrane bound receptors. And if the receptors, they are present inside the target cell, they are called as a intracellular receptor. Example of it is nuclear receptor. So the bottom line is hormones, they act on specific target tissue by binding to specific proteins present on either the membrane surface or inside of the target cell. This leads to the formation of the hormone receptor complex, which is specific, and the formation of the hormone receptor complex leads to biochemical changes in target tissue, leading to the specific physiological response. Clear? I told some of the hormones will have the receptors that are present only on the membrane surface. Example, FSH or follicle stimulating hormone. So these hormones, they cannot enter the target cell. So how do they generate the response? They in turn generate the secondary messengers such as cyclic AMP, IP3 and calcium 2+, and these secondary messengers generate the biochemical as well as a physiological response. Clear? There is a second category of hormones which can pass through the cell membrane. Okay, these hormones are generally steroid hormone or iodothyronines. They have the receptors which are present inside the cell, or they are known as the intracellular receptors. Example, the receptors present on the surface of the nucleus or the nuclear receptors. So these hormones, example estrogen, they can pass through the membrane, and when they reach the receptors present on the nucleus, they form the hormone receptor complex. This hormone receptor complex again can pass through the membrane, and it can interact with the complex genome to form the cumulative biochemical action and the physiological response. Now how these are able to pass the membrane? They are able to pass the membrane because they are steroidal in nature, and that is why they can cross the membrane, which is lipoproteinaceous in nature. Okay, so the physiological response is formed due to interaction of the hormone receptor with the complex genome. I hope it's clear for you now. Covered all the major endocrine glands and their functions today. Also, we looked into the types of the hormones, their mechanism of actions. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the session today and found it to be helpful. If you found this video to be helpful, please do share with your friends, subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. Also, I have uploaded in detail the pituitary gland and the hormone secreted. You can check out that video to understand the pituitary gland in detail. Thank you everyone. Have a very good day.